Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Self Love Club. It's a Sunday. It's a beautiful day. I'm manifesting it for you. I think I start most weeks talking about how I hope it's a beautiful day. And instead of hoping it, I'm just going to manifest that whenever you're listening to this, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, any day of the week, that it's a beautiful day for you, that you're feeling good, that you are slowing down, you're taking some time for yourself, which I assume you're doing because you're listening to the podcast. So welcome back. I'm very glad to be here with all of you, even though I'm alone in my little office studio recording this. But we're together. If you're on YouTube, you can see me. So it feels a little bit more personal. And hopefully you've been listening and my voice is becoming more of a known sound in your little earbuds. So I'm just glad to be together. I'm also very excited for a whole new month because that means we have a new intention. And I know that I talked about this a few weeks ago that we're changing up sort of the structure of our intentions and how we do things. But yes, there is still a monthly intention because I think it's important to focus on something and give it your time and energy in order to see results. Because a lot of times, I know this for myself, I'll start something. I think this is the week I'm going to achieve something new or set a new routine. And if I don't give it enough time and attention and my focus, then it's actually just not going to work out and I fall off and then I'm upset with myself that it didn't work out. So that's why we have intentions, is slowing down, giving ourselves the space, the conversation, and the approach of being able to really learn something new and ideally learn a little bit more about ourselves as we are on this personal growth journey together. Because it's beautiful when we're together. I'm also excited about this month's intention because it actually kind of came from all of you. In our Instagram, we do a lot of different community questions and polls and things like that. And we were asking all of you what you were looking for in terms of intentions, whether there's some that resonated with you, maybe something that came to mind for you specifically. And the one that resonated with most of you was actually rest and reset, which feels very aligned because it's something that I am always striving to rest and I guess in some ways reset, but I really struggle with rest. This is something that I have struggled with as long as I can remember. I have always been the child that wants to do the most and be the busiest. And I apologize to my family, mostly my brother, for being probably a very annoying child. When I was really little, I would wake up before my parents, which I think is pretty common for a lot of kids. Like, your parents are tired, they want to rest. I mean, a lot of us are becoming parents. And if you get a chance to sleep in, trust me, you're taking it. So I would wake up, I would put the coffee on for my parents. I would watch infomercials because that was what was on Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. And then as soon as my parents got up, I would be bothering them incessantly about, what are we doing today? What can we do? What's the plan? What should we all do together? And I think mostly my brother did not want this. Let's all do things together as a family. He enjoyed his alone time. And I came up with this concept of writing down different things we could do on pieces of paper and putting it in a jar. So if we ever felt stuck for things to do, we could just pull something out of a jar. And that did not last long because it was not fun for everyone to be assigned something to do by 8-9-year-old Mary, who wanted to be the most active and productive child out there. So it's in me to want to be doing a lot, I have to say. That's really something that I definitely can see in myself, and I don't think it's a bad thing. But because that's in me of wanting to do a lot, which you can probably tell in my adult years as having this podcast, having a business, I do some mentorship and small business consulting. I like to do a lot of things and I enjoy it all, but I also really struggle with resting. And I have to say it's been very apparent to me this past, definitely year, but I would say 2 years since moving from Toronto to LA, the concept of slowing down and taking rest has become one that I am very aware that I'm not doing well at. When I moved to LA, I thought, I'm going to get here and I'm going to rest. After packing up my house, selling off so much furniture, literally boxing up my life and moving it across the continent to another city, of course I'm going to be able to rest when I get on the other side. That was not the case, obviously, because when you move, even if you're moving in the same city down a block or even in the same building, it's just as exhausting as moving across the country. But moving into a new country, I kind of forgot that I was immigrating into America because Canada and America feel so similar. But the reality is, it's similar, but you're also becoming an individual within this country. You don't have a credit score, nothing is set up. You have to basically convince people to trust you. And it was a lot of work also during the time of furniture delays, shipping delays. So getting furniture was a pain point, and it was a long time before I felt settled in our home here in LA. It was almost like 8 to 12 months before I was like, oh, we actually live here. And for me, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, it's really hard to rest if you don't feel like you have a space that is safe or comfortable that will allow you to rest. And I think that's actually where a lot of us probably struggle when it comes to resting, is we haven't created a safe space for resting. Because resting really is about stopping, slowing down, putting your feet up, and just being present, just being existing in that moment and in that space. And if you're in a place that isn't comfortable, or you look around and think of all the things that you should be doing or could be doing, whether that's cleaning or improvements, putting clothes away, all those different things, it's really hard to actually rest. And I am there with you. And when it really hit me that I'm not good at resting is after I had my surgery, where obviously post-surgery, you're supposed to rest and recover. And I got so antsy about not being able to leave my home because I was exhausted and physically drained in terms of like the pain, and just walking was really exhausting, and napping was a very common thing for me, which is not what I do normally. And it really became hard for me to just stay on the couch or stay in my bed and just rest when my mind was going 100 miles a minute, basically, because I wanted to do things. I had that desire to do things, but I knew my body wasn't in a place that was able to do things. And so there was a bit of like an inner battle or conflict around how do I rest when it's actually the last thing I want to do. And it's still something I'm struggling with. It's still something I'm trying to understand in terms of how do I have these two conflicting aspects of myself existing in one body, in one space, and how do I acknowledge both but also respect both in the same way. And one thing that I was doing as my energy levels were slowly returning, and I think, the TikTok girlies really put me on this, but it was romanticizing like the simple things. So instead of wanting to go out and do the most, which is what I'm usually doing, so like whether it's going out for a coffee, going for a long walk or a hike or a run, going out for lunch or dinner, I didn't have energy for that. I really knew that I had to stay at home where I was able to sit down in a comfortable space, probably fall asleep because that's what was happening pretty frequently. And what I was doing is, instead of thinking about I should be out of my home being productive or doing things, I can still do certain things, but within my home, and make it feel better than normal and less of like a chore. So one evening I was like, you know what? I'm going to just putter around and do like the small tasks that I do often, but that I usually rush through. So I poured myself a little Olipop root beer, I think it was. So like a little soda pop in my wine glass, put on my headphones and put on a really good podcast, and really just was very aware of these little tasks that I had to do around the house. So I was doing a couple dishes, wiping down the counters. I took some garbage out. I folded laundry, things that I often am not, I would say, mentally present for. But that way I was still able to feel like I was accomplishing something, but almost in a restful approach, because I wasn't trying to rush through it. I wasn't focused on like the next thing that I had to get done, going through a checklist. I was just being really present and intent with the type of puttering that I was doing. And it felt like a combination of rest and productivity. So I think this isn't the solution to resting. It's not about you should still be doing things while trying to rest. No, you definitely need to rest and put your feet up and actually just be present in what your body's feeling, checking in with yourself. It's a good time to do journaling, different things like that. But if you're in a period or a season of your life where maybe your body physically needs that rest a lot more, but your mind maybe is struggling with it, if it's something that you internally deal with the way that I do, there's ways to, I would say, accomplish small tasks like puttering around, cleaning up, maybe reading, working on a puzzle, things like that, that can still feel restful while you're not having that inner battle of, I should be doing more, I need to be doing more. And that's where the reset comes in. So this month is rest and reset. It's not just one, it's two. Because for some reason, when you have rest, and again, this is my personal perspective, may not relate to you, but I hope it does. When you have rest, it almost feels like a reset for how you operate in your life. And I know this happens a lot when we take vacations or we actually take time off work or sort of our day-to-day life or priorities that we have and step out of the monotony or the routine of our life, and we're able to sort of reset our perspective, reset our schedule, our approach, whatever it may be. But with rest allows you to reset and sort of look at things in a different light. You start to, I would say, analyze or dissect even. I feel like that could be a way to look at it, is analyze and dissect what's working for you and what's not working for you in your life, where you're feeling burnt out, maybe why you're feeling burnt out in more ways than others, and why you're not able to rest. And sometimes you're not able to rest because of life circumstances. And that's when it's really tricky. If you are in a season of working and hustling and grinding because you're building your career or you're working two jobs to pay off those student loans, that's a reality that a lot of us face. And there's no way to glamorize that, oh, you should still be resting and you should be able to do it all. You should be able to work those two jobs and still have a slow Saturday morning. That's not always the case. But those are sometimes the seasons where you can look at what does actually give me energy despite really grinding and really hustling. What actually makes me feel good and what does give me a bit of rest? Is it just 20 minutes before bed? Can I just take 20 minutes of slowing down, of being intentional with my body, seeing how I feel, again, connecting to those feelings, that intuition, that self-trust of what your body's saying, and really listen to it and allow your body to just be, to be still, to take a moment, and to be able to rest in a space that, you know, it doesn't have to be a whole morning or a full weekend, but sometimes it's just those 20 minutes that allows your body to feel like it's recharging. And obviously, we would love to have more time than not to be able to rest, but life happens and it's not always going to work out the way that we want. So if you're in a place that you feel like, yeah, rest sounds great, but that's not realistic for me in this season of my life, I would challenge you to look at your schedule, your routines, how you fill your time, and maybe hit a little reset on that. Maybe look at some habits you have that aren't serving you, that maybe aren't giving you energy. So are you hitting snooze 6 times in the morning? I have been there. I'm often there. I'm not going to lie. So I understand that, but that's not serving me. Every time I hit snooze in the morning, I know this really isn't helping. I should have either stayed asleep for this extra 20 minutes instead of snoozed for 20 minutes, or I should have gone to bed earlier so that I can get up at this time and actually get up and start my day. And so that's where a reset can kind of come in, is looking at where you're putting your energy, where maybe you are wasting some time or wasting some energy. And let's be honest, one of the biggest places that we all waste time and energy is on social media. So maybe you do need to put a timer on those apps and have them lock after a certain amount of time, or have the ability to be on them as much as you want throughout the day, but then come 8 p.m., no more social media. Different things like that, setting boundaries which is another lovely intention we've gone through. But setting boundaries can really help you hit a reset button so that you're able to prioritize finding and creating space for rest. Because I'm going to be honest with you, rest doesn't just happen. Like most things in life, they don't just happen. It's not just placed in front of us, and we're not just given this opportunity to slow down and feel rested, rejuvenated, and fulfilled from some time off and going back to it. Like everything else that we want in life, we have to make it a priority. So we have to carve out time. We have to prioritize it in our schedule, especially when you have a busy schedule, even more so, and realize that, again, if there's things in your schedule that are not serving you, that are not filling your cup or your battery up and are actually draining you of your energy or even your joy because you end up going down that comparison loop, whatever it may be, it's time to remove those things. And this is a season. Everything comes and goes. So you may be spending less time on social media, or you may be doing less social activities with friends because you're prioritizing your rest. And I would say this time of year specifically, it's such a great time of year to focus on what you need before the chaos of the end of year, holidays, New Year's, all that stuff comes around. I know for me, I love the holidays and I love spending time with family and friends and having like holiday parties. It feels so cozy and just so wholesome, but it's also so exhausting and so busy. And if I'm not in a place that I know when my body needs rest and I'm in tune with what my body's asking for, I just burn out socially, not considering work, but just my social family life. I can burn out so easily that I have to prioritize my rest. And I did that a few years ago where I actually stopped spending holidays with my family because I was so burnt out from growing a business as an entrepreneur. And, you know, holidays are pretty busy if you work in the retail space. So it was quite a busy time for me. And then traveling to see family, when I'm with family, going from one place to the next and being quite exhausted doing that. And then coming back to work and being completely burnt out because I wasn't listening to my body. So I actually had to make some sacrifices, and I did not spend Christmas or any time around the holidays with my family. And I actually spent it alone in my condo in Toronto because I knew those were some days that I was able to fully rest and recharge my battery because that's what I needed. And it wasn't an easy decision, and it's something that was hard to make at the time, but I knew it was the right decision. And every year that I did that, I did it for a few years, and this was prior to the pandemic. So this was when everyone was still together at Christmas, and I was solo at Christmas. So I knew that it was harder in that way, but it always helped me in terms of building up my energy, getting me ready and in the right mindset to head into the new year, which is what I needed as an entrepreneur at the time. And that was a season. That's not how I spend my holidays now. I definitely have more social things going on. I am able to prioritize my rest and recovery around that. But I do think that we have to slow down and listen to what our body is saying. We have to hit that reset button, change some of our habits, change some of our routines in order to incorporate rest into our daily lives and at the bare minimum, our weekly lives, so that we don't burn out. It is just not the way we want to live. If you're thinking of your higher self, who they are, how they feel, how much energy they have when they wake up, that's like my number one I think of when I think of my higher self is, how does Mary wake up when she is her best self? How does she feel? Is she full of energy, or is she dragging her body out of bed? I really want to be the woman that's full of energy in the morning and just ready to start the day and is excited for a new day. So when I think of that higher self version of me, I know that rest is a priority because the only way to start the day with energy is because I've been giving myself rest. So maybe that's something that you can think about this week as you are looking at your life. You're doing a little analyzing of how you spend your time and where you spend it. And you can break down what can you maybe move off your priority list or move off your daily routine list so that you can incorporate rest a little bit more. And again, starting with 5, 10, 20 minutes is a great place to begin. It doesn't have to be a whole evening or a weekend. You still want to be able to feel like you're getting what you need to done, whether that's work, school, home cleaning, groceries, all that good stuff, you know, the reality of life. but also that you're getting some periods of rest and rejuvenation so that you can recharge. And this is a good place to journal. I love a journal. I tell all of you all the time how important journaling is, but this is a great place to start asking some questions and maybe asking, what does your higher self look like if rest is in her life? How does she feel? How does she go about her day? Asking yourself these questions will allow you to maybe see some areas that you can adjust and prioritize a little bit better, because rest is not for the weak. It's actually for all of us, and it makes you stronger when you've been able to add rest into your life. So I hope this is inspiring rest instead of feeling like an overwhelming decision. But for me, rest has been on my mind, and I'm glad that we can all talk about it together, because I don't want to be alone in this struggle of trying to understand rest, prioritize it, and not feel guilty, because I think that's another thing. So I'll be talking more about rest this month. And if you have any great stories about rest, I would say, I guess a story or something that you've learned about prioritizing rest, or maybe not prioritizing rest and what you've learned from that, I would absolutely love to hear. So you should follow us at It's Mary Young, and you can follow me at Maria Foriata, and you can DM us. I'm on both accounts often, and you can also leave me a little voicemail, a little voice note. You can see that in the show notes and the YouTube description. There's a little link there for you to go and do that, because I love the community and what we've grown together to be able to chit chat about all these things. So I would love to hear from you, because we are doing this together, and I'm here leading with my vulnerable stories of what I'm going through and sharing it with you. So if you haven't subscribed, now would be a great time. We have weekly episodes every Sunday. You can watch them on YouTube and get them on podcasts wherever you listen, and share this with a friend who maybe you've had these conversations with. This, again, is about community. I want all of us to feel heard, seen, valued, and loved as we are exploring life in general together. So share it with a friend and give yourself a little love today and this week as you add rest into your routine. I hope you have an amazing day, and remember to love yourself first.